I do believe the one, the only Henry Barbour is with us, GOP Strategist. Good morning, sir. How are you? It's good to have you.
Hello. Hello, Paul. Good to see you.
Big night last night for Trump. Nikki's going to call it quits at 9 o'clock. Is it 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock? 9 o'clock this morning, our time, I think. And everything is coming into place. Your insight and analysis, first of all, on the Super Tuesday last night.
Well, like you say, I mean, it was sort of more of the same, both for Biden and for Trump. You know, they continue to roll towards having a majority of the delegates to make them, you know, in essence, the official presumptive nominee before the convention makes them the official nominee this summer. So it was kind of more of the same, but it was a big night. If you think about the first four states that they get all the talk, Iowa and New Hampshire and Nevada and South Carolina, it's only 6% of the delegates. Yesterday for Republicans, it was about 34% of delegates. 854 delegates were up, and Trump won 722 of them, and Nikki Haley won 46. And that math doesn't quite add up, but because still kind of figuring it. But Trump is just about at 1,000 delegates, and he needs 1,215 to be the presumptive nominee, which, you know, he's rolling, and he and Biden are, you know, really, we're transitioning from the primary to the general. And so it's about to start being about Trump and Biden and who's going to be in the White House next year.
Henry, how many are at stake next Tuesday with Mississippi being inclusive in there? Are we, because he needs around 220. I might be off a little bit on there. He needs around 220. So will he get those next week, or do we have enough states running then?
Yeah,
or delegates?
Yeah, there are four states: Georgia, Hawaii, Mississippi, and Washington. And I think it looks like about 160. Georgia's got 59, Hawaii 19, Mississippi 40, and Washington 43. So Trump, I think, is going to get the number on March 19, the next Tuesday. But
I got you. Yeah.
But it's possible he could get there on the 12th, just depending on the final numbers from yesterday, which we don't quite have yet.
I got you.
But look, he's going to be the nominee. There's no question about that. Nikki Haley obviously is dropping out, and I think that was, you know, time for that. She did her thing, and Trump did his thing, and the voters have decided overwhelmingly. Nikki Haley won Vermont yesterday. She won the primary in Vermont. And Trump won
49.8% or something like that. Yeah. It wasn't a big victory, but it was a victory. And some guy named Palmer, an entrepreneur, won Samoa. I think the vote there was like 4-2 or something like that. So
I think it was like 50-40. That was the
I didn't see the final.
Caucus. Well, American
I got a couple
Samoa is only about 30,000 people in total anyway.
Well, I wonder how many of those were crossing the border at the time. It could have been some Biden people crossing the border at that particular time. So we never know about that, and they left and didn't vote.
You never know.
So it's gotten so squirrely out there, to be honest with you. I know you voiced your opinion that you would have liked to seen a more active primary. Are you settled in now as full support for Donald Trump?
Well, sure. I'm for a competitive primary, and I will say my support was for Nikki Haley, but certainly I'll support Donald Trump. I'll support our nominee, and we got to get Joe Biden out of the White House. There was a Harvard-Harris poll, Paul, about a week ago. 82% of Americans, Republican, Democrat alike, 82% said, quote, "We need a new president," which is overwhelming. So there's a huge political opportunity for President Trump and the Republican Party. Not only do we need to win the White House, but of course, Republicans need to take the Senate, where we think we have an outstanding chance to pick up seats in states like West Virginia and Montana. We got to hold the House, which is going to be challenging. And then, of course, we got a bunch of governor's races and legislative races, all around the country as well. So there's a lot on the table.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that the GOP fails in, and maybe Trump himself, for not saying this openly every time he has a chance, that we need your help, not only in the Oval Office, but we got to have your help in the House and Senate. We got to have. If we don't have them, all we're going to have is stalemate. We don't want a repeat of what we had the last time. You've got to include this in changing America, and it just seems like that's a second thought sometimes.
Well, it is, and I will say the Trump campaign has said recently, at least one of their people talking, was that the only thing that matters is the White House. And I will say the campaign kind of came behind him and cleaned it up and said, look, no, it's about more than the White House. The White House is the most important race. But as you say, Trump can't deal with the issues that Americans care about, the border and crime and inflation, the economy. If he doesn't have Congress to work with him, he is much more limited. And so it's really, really important. But it's interesting that, you talked about Trump and needing help. And, my view is, Paul, that Trump needs to shift into this general election mode, and first thing he needs to do is secure the Republican base of voters. He's got to tie them up. People like me who weren't for him in the primary, but are prepared to be for him, or considering, he's got to reach out to them. And the way you start that is he calls Nikki Haley, he calls Ron DeSantis and says, look, we had a rough primary. That's how it rolls. And I appreciate what you've done, and I need your help. And he has to do the same, I think, to the minority of voters that voted for DeSantis or Nikki Haley, and let them know that, hey, you know what? We've got to take the White House back. I'm going to need your help. I need you on the team. Sometimes he comes across like, if you're not with me, I don't really care anything about you. He's got to shift. He's got to reach out to people. And it starts with the traditional Republican voters, and then it goes to those suburbanite voters that we lost in 2020 in places like Milwaukee and Philadelphia.
I got to tell you, Henry, I see it in a totally different light sometimes, because I see him in a track record over the many years, even following him before, reading a couple of his books and everything in real estate. Once you are not an adversary, he's willing to shake hands with you. So I don't think that's going to be a problem as far as DeSantis is concerned, unless they still come after him, and God forbid that. But I think he will do that. Now, the question is, will Nikki do it? Because there's been rumors out there, or did she say this at one point, that she wouldn't support him. I mean, so it's almost, getting to the point of some rhino. And I think that would forever hurt her legacy.
Yeah, she's going to support him. I don't think there's any question about that. My point is he's the leader, and he needs to, I think, he needs to reach out to those people. He needs to reach out to the 30%, 40% of voters in various states that didn't vote for him. But he's also got to go get those college-educated, suburbanite, mostly women voters that have traditionally voted Republican but didn't vote with him in 20, and he's got to go reach out to them with the right tone in a way that talks about the issues that unite us.
Yeah.
Conciliatory, and of course the other thing that Trump is doing, and this Harvard Harris poll sheds light on it, is there are a lot of traditional Democrat voters who are thinking about voting for Donald Trump. He is growing the party in that sense. And they asked a question, what do you think about the job Trump did when he was president? 64% of 18 to 24-year-olds, young people who traditionally have been voting Democrat the last 20 years, 64% said they liked the job that Trump did. 40% of African Americans.
Let we got a break coming up here. I want to hold on. I wanted the computer to cut you off, but you're right on that. The
Yes.
RNC research that was released, I think yesterday, 73% said Biden is too old to be an effective president. 73%. This is across the board. 65% of them said our country is on the wrong track. 61% disapproved of Biden's performance as president. And God forbid, if he is in the White House, we're talking about Donald Trump, can't do anything if Hakeem Jeffries is on one side and Chuck Schumer's on the other side. So it is important to get that message.
Amen.
More
Amen.
with Henry Barbour.
Going to be too big to rig. The too big to rig we're really thinking about November 5th. We're coming. This freight train's coming. And it's going to be, I think, the most important date and day in the history of our country. We're going to take our country back. And if we don't win this next election, I think our country's finished. I really do. I think it's finished.
We say this over and over, but I guess what we could go by, and again, Henry Barbour is my guest, the GOP strategist from Yazoo City, Mississippi. Look, if we get 4 more years of what we got, I got to agree. I think the country is either, number one, totally changed, and the Constitution is a piece of paper. You cannot do what has been done in almost 4 years to change nation-changing decisions. 8.3 million immigrants in this country. We don't know who they are, where they are.
Yeah, we got real challenges. And I think, Paul, that gets to your point that you were making earlier, that this isn't just about the White House. You've got to bring the Congress along. And so Republicans, not only do we need to elect Donald Trump,
I think he froze on us. You want to slap him or reboot or something? Because there we go.
This year. Yeah. And so we've got a great opportunity there. We've got to win the House. And obviously pick up a couple governorships would be good. But
yeah,
the country's got a big problem.
Yeah. How does Ronna McDaniel figure into this and the new person? Speak to that, because I mean you're a key player in some of that also. And she says she's leaving, and I think it's right around the corner. When didn't she say after Super Tuesday?
Yeah,
so that's coming up soon.
It's coming up this Friday. In fact, I'm flying to Houston tomorrow for a Republican National Committee meeting in Texas, where Ronna McDaniel, the RNC chairman, and Drew McKissick, the co-chair, are both going to step down at the request of Donald Trump. And then the Republican National Committee members will vote for new leadership. And Donald Trump has recommended Michael Whiteley, who is the North Carolina Republican Party chairman. He's an outstanding state party chairman, to be the RNC chair. And then Donald Trump has recommended his daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, who's married to Eric Trump, to be the co-chair. And then in addition to that, Paul, a guy named Chris LaCivita, who helps run the Trump campaign, is going to come over and run the day-to-day operations of the Republican National Committee. So the Trump team will have control of course, their campaign, but also the Republican National Committee. And so that's a big deal. That's significant changes that are happening this Friday. And as I said, RNC members, there's 3 from each state and territory. They're all flying to Houston tomorrow for this meeting, where we will vote on that. And but it's
Henry,
a done deal. I mean, it's going to happen.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. You don't really expect any opposition?
No, we don't. And that's a normal thing. You know, if you look back at Romney or McCain or George W. Bush or even Reagan, when they became the presumptive nominee, they essentially take over the Republican National Committee. They put their staff in. I will say it's unusual to put a new chair in during a presidential election year. This is the first time that's happened since Eisenhower. So that's going back a little bit. But Trump wanted to make the changes, and the committee will go along with it.
Well, this hasn't happened just recently. It's been happening, and now it's speeding up. He is changing the face of the Republican Party. Slowly but surely, the Republican Party is different now than it was when he came down the escalator. And I don't think we've seen anything yet. We have, through the possibility of some retirement, like Mitch McConnell stepping down from his position, too, we're going to see a different Republican Party in the years to come. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that Donald Trump did particularly is really bring working class voters into the Republican Party.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the really good things that he's done, and move the party away from being more a party of Wall Street, which is kind of where the party was to some extent. And so that's been I think that's been a really good development.
Yep.
And we were talking about it.
And
before,
I think we'll see that after
minorities
November.
that are looking.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Paul.
We're almost out of time here, but I think you're right.
Yeah,
one of the things you constantly hear is African Americans saying, I'm going to vote for Trump, or the second layer, which is a little like Trump light, is I may not like Donald Trump, but I'm going to vote for him because of the policies that he had acted in the first 4 years. So it's going to be interesting here.
Joe Biden.
No,
People are sick of Joe Biden.
Henry, safe trip tomorrow. Thank you for joining.